in the den, and I'll talk about this more in depth in another episode, but it's basically professional and personal learning from my very own pastor, Dr. Darius Daniels of Change Church. And what he does is he teaches um, the marketplace, like being in the marketplace,
Hmm.
but teaching and learning the King's way. I'm sure
So
I
like
just
ministry in the
chopped.
marketplace.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
right. I totally chopped that up because
Hmm.
I wasn't expecting to like talk about this, but the program is really dope. There's a lot of different modules, and I say that to say that self-care and soul care was one
Mm.
of the modules, and
Hmm.
what I took from it. But it was just in this talk of, you know, how what does that mean and what
Hmm.
does that mean to you,
Hmm.
and the different components around it and all of the things that make up
Right.
what it is,
Right.
right? So for me, like my self-care routine, I make sure that I try to balance out my work life. And is there actually a balance? He also talks about the work week. Like I'm getting a whole brain fart right now. But the ideal work week,
Mm.
and it helps you bring balance to what it is that you're doing. I actually did it with Nia,
Hmm.
a couple of maybe a few weeks ago because she has 3 jobs. She's in college.
Hmm.
She's learning, and I'm like, no, we're about to get your ideal work week together so that you
Right.
can balance it out, and then you can see where you have times where you can take care of yourself, managing your self-care,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
these are things that you need to do
Hmm.
because you have to do it. You have to create time for studying. You
Hmm.
have to create time for school. You have to create time for each job you have. Like, okay, so I'll just go back to like in living color. Like he got 5 jobs. Okay, anyway. So it'd be all of that. So maybe 10. No,
Okay.
okay. But I think that he does a really good job from a pastor's perspective, like kind of taking that hat off, but not
Yeah.
taking kingdom way
Yeah. Yeah.
out of
Yeah.
it. And he references it said uh another brain fart, but you can correct me, of was it Isaac or was it Abraham, like being in the marketplace. Um and it wasn't like churchy, but because he was spiritual, like that's where all of his relationships and a lot of connections came from. And he would talk. He that's how he would minister for the most part,
Hmm.
right? Because he was in the marketplace, because he built tents. Who built tents?
Child, a few of them.
Okay.
But neither here nor there. The point of the matter or the story is soul care
and and self-care and those.
and right, because we work, right? We some of us are mothers in this context, right?
Yep.
Some are wives, mothers and wives. Some of us are just really um pushing our, the agenda, whatever that
Yeah.
agenda is,
Yep.
and making sure we're pushing our brand, or really just making sure that we're living on purpose, in perfect purpose,
Yes.
with purpose in mind. And so with that being said, there's a huge requirement of us. And so being mindful, so we're out there in the marketplace doing the things, right? But
Exactly.
while we're in the marketplace doing the things, whatever those things are and whatever we're called to do,
We're doing them kingdom way.
right, but also having the mindset of ensuring that we're caring for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because life could be lifing and we get so busy doing the things that
Checking off
we can,
boxes.
yeah, we'll check off boxes and we can easily neglect ourselves. There's a gnat here. I'm gonna catch it. I think I caught it. Y'all saw me catch it? Okay.
Got him.
Got
I
it.
was gonna, no, got him.
Listen, we got a whole like smorgasbord over here. You talk about self-care. We got some grapes and peaches and apples,
Blueberries and raspberries.
blueberries. We don't just have popcorn like here in Palmade world. We got some good stuff. We talk about self-care, eating healthy,
I was
right?
just about to say that.
Having
Yes.
a healthy mindset. the popcorn was based off the concept. So yeah, we chowed down a little bit on the popcorn,
The popcorn.
but we've got healthy things in the background. We just ate, took a break, right? And had some dinner, right? Just making sure we're taking care of ourselves. We're busy. We're in the marketplace. This is our marketplace,
Yes.
doing the things that God has called us to do, but also taking some time out knowing, okay, my stomach is growling. I need to eat. My leg is cramping. I might need some water or some potassium,
Or just to
right?
get up, stand
I
back
need to
and
get up and move,
move.
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we ignore those signs. I believe God put those signs in our bodies intentionally for us to be aware, because we could be so busy doing all of the things
Ok
that we neglect and
okay.
ignore what's happening on the inside of us.
So, perfect example, and I'm so sure that I'm not the only one who does this, and you might be able to relate. You're in a task. Well, for me, I'm probably sitting at my desk looking at some numbers and doing whatever,
Mhm.
but wherever, you're like, "All right, I gotta go to the bathroom, but Imma go in a minute. Let me see if I can finish this." By the time you get
Guilty.
up and go to the bathroom, you like
Barely
barely
could hold it.
you squirt, you crouching
I
down
hope
trying to
not
make
squirting. Maybe, maybe not.
not squirting. Oh my god. I'm not even I'm moving on. But
Go
my
ahead.
point is,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, we don't take the time to really properly care for ourselves. And doing that too much, right? You get bladder infections,
yeah.
you get other infections, you get bacteria. Again,
And you weaken your bladder, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list can go on because we didn't take the time out that when our body signaled us to say, get up and go, do, exact, move, etc.,
that's
and we
scary
ignored
though.
it, and then we
You
have
are
to
hitting the
deal.
floor while you walking.
Yeah, but then we have to deal with the repercussions of us ignoring the signs, and
Facts.
I think that that leads us into this next segue, right? It's October. It's October 18th. So we're more than halfway through the month, and it would behoove me if I did not acknowledge Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Not only is it Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And um I'm gonna just share my journey as it pertains to breast cancer. 2016, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, I felt a lump. I did my own self breast exam, and I had started doing it back in, I think it was like 2011, and it was through my own self breast exam that I felt a small, less than a pea sized bump on my right breast, and it was, deep, and I didn't think much of it, but when I ended up going to my next appointment to my GYN, I had asked if, she could check it and see, maybe I was like reading too much into it. I didn't know. And she did. She did an exam. She sent me off to get an ultrasound, a mammogram and an ultrasound. I'm in my early 30s, so, for me it was just like a non-thing, like, nah, yeah, there's no
Yeah.
way. And the fact of the matter is, after her sending me off to get the further exams, the tests, etc., um 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, all of the tests, mammogram, ultrasound, came back negative. So by 2015, I was just like, there's no point in me keep going every year to get the same test for it to be negative. It's nothing. It's nothing. So all of 2015, I ignored, what was developing in my body, you know? And by that point, I decided in 2015 I wasn't going. So it was like the latter part of 2014 into 2015. I just wasn't going for another test. And so I skipped my annual. And it was Thanksgiving Day. I'll never forget this, of 2015. We were sitting, my cousin had hosted Thanksgiving dinner at her house. And so my mother is one of 6 siblings. And my cousin was hosting Thanksgiving at her house, and my aunt, my mother's baby sister, had been diagnosed with breast cancer just years prior. And by that point, she was in remission. She had had her mastectomy, et cetera, et cetera. And so she was sharing her journey. It was the first time The women in my family actually talked about their own selves, their health. And that'll bring me to another point that I'll remember to talk about how important it is for women in families. I have
Yep.
3 daughters. It's important for us to tell our stories because we don't know how it might save someone else's life.
Fact.
And the fact that my aunt was sharing her story and telling us about the symptoms. We were sitting at the dining room table, telling us about the symptoms that she was experiencing, some of the signs that she saw, and how she ended up finding her breast cancer. And as she began to talk about, her nipple inverting, um, how there was discharge coming out, um, how there was soreness, tenderness, pain, the lump in the breast, began to grow. As she's describing these symptoms, I'm sitting here to myself like, meanwhile, I have exactly the same symptoms, the inverted nipple, the discharge, etc. But I ignored it. That little pea size, it was less than a pea-sized bump that I found in 2011, had begun to grow. But because all of ultrasound the mammograms and ultrasound had come back negative, I just figured, well, it's not breast
It's in
cancer. Some people have cystic breasts, maybe that's what it was. Speculating, diagnosing myself, right?
self-diagnosing. Yeah.
Right. But also wrestling with this idea that if it is breast cancer, uh, dealing with my own mortality, right? So it was a lot of things going on, and I sat in the seat of fear for a long time. I sat in the seat of fear for a long time. So as my aunt is telling this story, November of 2015, my heart begins to race. My mind is like, oh my God, I think I have breast cancer, literally, because what she was describing was what I was experiencing.
So wait, this was after Thanksgiving, or this was you
This was
sitting?
Thanksgiving Day.
You're sitting there, your heart is
We
racing.
ate dinner. It is just a few of us women, my cousin, my aunt, and myself, and it might be one or two other persons sitting around the table. And yeah, my heart is racing. I'm as she's telling her story, talking about the symptoms and all of these things, and I'm like, I'm saying within myself, "Oh my God." I didn't say it out loud, like,
Right,
"Oh
right,
my God,
right.
auntie, I think I have the same thing." No, I'm sitting here, self-loathing and just kinda allowing, what she's sharing to sit and resonate with me, and fear begin to creep up, rise up, like, "Oh my god, I think I have breast cancer," because what she was describing was what I was experiencing. And so fast forward, I ended up, calling and making a doctor's appointment, and my doctor's appointment, I'll never forget, was December 16th of 2015. I had, gotten another mammogram, ultrasound. This time they wanted to do a biopsy. So they scheduled me for a biopsy on December the 27th, which was my husband's birthday of that year. So I went and got that biopsy. And on January 11th of 2016, I was sitting at work. I worked at the Performing Arts School. And I was sitting at work and I got the phone call. By then, I had already talked to my boss about it because I knew her mom was a survivor of breast cancer. And I told her the biopsies, the things that I was going through, the
Mhm,
process
mhm.
and whatnot. And so I was really appreciative of her because she kind of held my hand through the process and kept encouraging me. And I ended up getting the phone call on January 11th at work from the pathologist herself. I had a bad experience with that biopsy. I mean, to the point where I was literally crying because of the way they went in and had to draw. It pinched something. It caused so much pain, an enormous amount of pain. I was praying to God that I did not have to go back to get another round of that biopsy. And so I thought she was calling me for that, but she was actually calling because the results had come back in and that I had tested positive for breast cancer. And she was very empathic. She said, I typically don't call my clients, my patients. However,
Mm.
because of how everything went with you during your biopsy, I felt so bad that it caused you so much pain. I wanted to be the one to call you. And so she called me to tell me that I had tested positive for breast cancer. And it took a minute. I heard her, but it took a minute for me to process. And I said, so what stage? Because that was the first thing I wanted to know. Well, what stage is it? And she said, so I'm not gonna get into the particulars, but I want you to make an appointment with a breast surgeon. And do you have an oncologist? And I said,
Mhm.
no, I don't. Like, I didn't have any of those things. I had no breast surgeon,
Yeah.
no oncologist. I said, but I'll find it. I'll find one. I want to thank you for calling me. And so I hung up the phone, came out of the bathroom, walked past my desk, went into the conference room. Last episode, I was talking about my girlfriend, Pam. We were supposed to do the three peas in the pod.
Yes.
So
Yep.
Pam was sitting out there. We worked together. And she looked at my face and she knew just by the mere fact that I couldn't even look at anybody, but she knew. And I went in that conference room where my boss was. And I told her, I just sat down. I didn't even say anything. I sat down at the table. She was on the other side of the conference room table and I sat down and she was on a call. And whoever she was on the phone with, she said, I'm gonna have to give you a call back. And she hung up the phone. She got up out of her seat, came around, sat right next to me, right next to me. And to this day, I'll forever be so grateful to God for placing her in my life. She sat right down next to me. She put her arm around me and she said, Marsh, it's going to be okay. She said, we're going to get through this. She said, I didn't even say anything. I said nothing. I was just there crying, trying to figure out this whole thing in my mind. She said, we're going to get through this together. Do you have an oncologist? The same question the doctor just asked me. And I said, I don't have anything. She said, here. And she went on her phone and got the number to her mother's oncologist.
Mm.
And she said, I'll call for you if you want me to. I said, no, I just need a moment to process this. I'm getting emotional. I gotta tell my husband, I gotta tell my family, I gotta there was so many in my mind, I gotta tell all these people, right? Still concerned with
Everybody
everybody else.
else.
And
Can we pause for a
yeah.
second though, sis? Because
Mhm.
just hearing the story now, I didn't have that.
Mhm.
I did have a lump in my breast.
Mm.
I had a benign cyst
Mm.
after all of that. I'm not even going to go through all of the. But what I want you to share with our viewers, because the doctor couldn't talk to you about the stages.
Mhm.
Um, I want you to talk about each stage and what it meant for, what did you think about once you received the results, about what you could have done to find out earlier? Like, what
Mhm.
was your mindset
Mhm.
with, oh my gosh, not just the revelation of your auntie, saying something about it and how you were feeling, but when you found out, because she did the self-care, you did the breast exam,
Mhm.
you saw it was something, you were on it
Right.
until you weren't,
Right.
right?
Right.
Then you hear your aunt's story
Mhm.
and you're like, ooh, oh my goodness,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So now you start feeling and you're like, let me make an appointment. And then your experience from that. But I want you to talk about the stages. I want you to talk about the mindset, because now I think we're moving into the component where the soul care,
So I can't
right?
get there until I get to the point for me to be able to get there in the story.
Okay, got you.
Right,
Got you.
because there is a point in the story where then I have to tap back into the soul care.
Okay,
But
not
for right now, in that moment, it's really dealing with um my mortality because so after finding out about the cancer and trying to figure out an oncologist and all of that,
okay.
I have to
Move
now
too far.
make
Okay.
yeah, I have to now make appointments. There's a lot of things that then have to happen
So I want you to
for the
explain that
process.
process,
Right.
right?
So
Because I want the viewers to kind of understand what that process is,
mhm.
right? Maybe they're listening to this.
Mhm.
Maybe they hear you retelling Auntie's story and now how it is impact and has impacted you.
Mhm.
Um, Knowing what they should be doing,
Mhm.
no matter what
Mhm.
test results, and how important it is every
Yeah,
year
and
to.
I think that as I continue to share the story, it all of those components are gonna make sense.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
okay.
gonna make sense because I within my story, those components are gonna be
Got you.
answered. I really
Okay,
feel
okay,
like they're gonna be answered and,
okay.
in having to go through because you can't just jump to those components without telling the story, because within the narrative, my narrative, are those
Those bases are
answers.
covered.
Yeah, all
Oh,
of those
okay.
things, because I had to process through each of the phases. So I'm really in right now just sharing what happened in the beginning when I found out. Even before I found out, my
Gotcha. Okay.
self-care, right? That self-care was me doing my self-breast exam.
Okay.
And that's how I found it, you know? Had I not done that, I might not have found it. So it is important for you, every woman and man, because breast cancer isn't just a woman thing.
Definitely.
Men are
Yes.
diagnosed, unfortunately, at alarmingly low rates. Why? Because men don't believe they have breasts, and men don't believe that they can get breast cancer. I know a man right now, who's battling breast cancer. I was just on the phone with his wife a few weeks back,
Mm.
right
Mhm.
now. So, getting back to the story, so I had people in my community, my coworkers, who were at the first line of defense for me.
Support system. I'm sorry, I just wanted to throw
No,
that out there.
absolutely.
Like, very important. And I don't wanna cut you off, but
No,
it's
no,
I
it's
I
okay.
got all of these things, my mind is like, "What about this, and what about that?" Like,
Mhm.
so I apologize.
No, no, don't
I just
apologize. Cause you I think this is really the first time I'm really fully telling the story for you to hear it from the beginning, all the way from the beginning.
Okay.
You knew I had breast cancer and I'm in treatment and da 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 da. But to hear the story, so I can imagine these questions are coming up like, wait, well, hurry up and get to
No,
no,
it's
no,
not
no,
even
no.
hurry up,
But
because this is
don't
the thing.
forget to tell this part of the story. Or maybe you don't, because you don't know
I
that this
don't
is a
under
part of
Yes,
my story.
exactly.
Right. So I'm sharing because you got to start from the beginning,
Mhm.
and all of these things I put in my book, Dying to Live, The Journey Towards Wholeness, because
Ooh, I'm so glad you did that, because when you were gonna you was gonna get it. Like, cause yeah,
it's in my
we all
book.
got it in us.
It's in my book.
Yeah.
Dying to Live, Journey Towards Wholeness. It really tells the full meat of it all. Even some tidbits on continued self-care, right? Foods to eat, right? Things to cut out. And I'm gonna get to that. But I'm not gonna get to the detail, the deep meat of it, because it is in my book. And I really want you to take
Yeah.
the time to read my book, because I believe it's going to be a self-help book. It's informative, it's telling my story, but also self-help. It's gonna help some people to process through life's journeys.
Yep.
And so I had a community of people around me to support me. My boss, my coworker, who became like my sister. She's like my work mom, but my sister work mom, if that makes sense. Uh,
She family, y'all.
she's family. That's Pam. And so I called my husband, like, and I told him, what happened. My boss immediately, she was like, "Go home, Marsh." So I called, and my husband met me, because we lived a little ways away. As you well know, we lived a little ways away. And so he met me, and we processed through this together. We ended up stopping at some spot. I don't even know. I didn't even eat. I couldn't even think about food. We ended up stopping, and we processed through this together. And then we only shared with a few family members, because it's a lot when something like this is shared. It can be overwhelming, because everybody want to call you, and everybody want to talk to you, and everybody want to know what happened,
Yeah.
and all those things. And it's just like, I need a moment to process. And I
Yeah.
respectfully asked my inner court to please keep this private until I was ready to share it. And they did. They did an excellent job in doing so. So I ended up, finding a breast doctor. I ended up getting finding an oncologist, and I ended up with a local group. But so on January the 16th, mind you, I found out January 11th.
Mhm.
January the 16th, this is how short of the time frame it all was. When I found out what stage it was stage 3. Um, and then by January the 16th, I went to go get my port installed at the hospital, because I had found me a doctor, a breast surgeon, etc., and a breast oncologist. And I got my port installed. I was getting ready to start chemo. And so that day, on my way home from the hospital, my sister-in-law was driving me home. My husband was following me. He had to kind of meet us, whatever. And I found out that day that my PET scan had come back. The PET scan is when they scan you top to the bottom. your
Mhm.
whole body to see if there's any cancer activity in the body.
Okay.
And I found out that day from my oncologist that it was stage 4. And he shared with me that it had spread into my lymph nodes, several lymph nodes, and into my liver. And from the
Mhm.
looks of it on the PET scan, it was moving very aggressively. And so they were going to need to start me on chemo immediately. And so I called, my husband called my father in ministry. He's now a bishop. I think he was a bishop at the time too. He called him and he was serving as serving the episcopacy in South in Africa. And he told him to tell me to call the Cancer Treatment Centers of America and make an appointment. Don't go with the first opinion, to go get a second opinion. So he told him that. Then I called my boss and she said the same thing. She said, call the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. She said, that's where my mom went. She said, trust me, call them. So I called them and they ended up setting me up with an appointment over the course of 3 days. They put us up in a hotel, transportation, all of that. And I ended up staying with that hospital, and in the journey, and so all of this happened. So I began chemo on February 12th. Mind you, I was diagnosed
Wow.
January 11th. I began chemo, got the port installed January 16th, and by February 12th, I had started chemo. My first opinion wanted to start chemo right away, but I'm glad I waited for the second opinion because when I asked him my first opinion, I said, "Well, now that I know that it's stage 4, what's the treatment plan?" Because they gave me a treatment plan with stage 3. I said, "Well,
Okay.
what's the treatment plan?" He said, "Well, we're just gonna keep you on chemo longer." And it didn't sit well in my spirit, so I called and got the second opinion.
Got it.
And what they decided to do was because it was seen that the cancer was in my liver, they specifically said, "Well, we're going to biopsy your liver." Because what we don't know is whether or not the cancer that's in the liver is the breast cancer that spread or if it's a different kind of cancer. Is it liver cancer? The only way we're going to know that
Wow.
is if we biopsy it. That made sense to me. Yeah, because the first doctor made an
They weren't just gonna
assumption.
treat the cancer because it
Cancer,
was cancer.
right? Not specific kind of cancer, because all
Yeah.
cancers are not the same.
So what's stage 1? What's stage 2? What's stage 3? What's stage 4? Can you
Yeah, so
address?
there's even a stage 0, believe it or not. I
Okay.
know someone who was diagnosed with stage 0, and you would think like, how can you be
So is that even
diagnosed?
cancer?
It
Like,
is.
okay.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And
I'm sorry.
there was
I
a
have this I have it's not a song,
uh-oh.
but this is one. Stick roll. Okay, sorry, I'm back.
I don't even know where that came from, but okay. Do
Channel
tell.
13, PBS. When you were little?
Child, I ain't
Okay,
watched
no,
Channel 13 since I probably was 12. Okay. But that just goes to show you
Samishi,
that goes to show you how
the
good
stuff
your memory is, because I don't remember.
okay.
Okay, so
One to grow. Okay.
back to the
Stage 0.
story at
No,
hand.
because I didn't
But no,
know.
there,
So okay,
yeah.
stage 0.
And so
Okay.
I'm glad you asked that question because stage 0, it, it's almost like
I'm
look.
sorry. Check out the nails though, because it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Y'all see, represent, represent,
So so
represent.
so
Okay.
look at this little P thing right here. This little speck. You see that little
Yeah.
speck?
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're looking for that speck, you wouldn't even know that speck was there. But I pointed it out. I pointed it out, right? So it's barely noticeable, but because there was something to draw your attention to it is why
You
you see
noticed
it.
it.
That for and even smaller than that, there's a smaller speck here.
Yep.
But you gotta really look and be intentional in looking to find that it's there. Because that speck could turn out to grow to be this size. And that's
A
literally
speck. Literally a speck. It could grow to be this size. That's
no, not that size. I
oh,
meant
I'm
this
sorry.
size.
Okay, wait,
I
wait, because I'm
mean,
all immersed in the story.
technically, I mean, I'm not laughing. Please no, and please don't misunderstand. What I was saying was I was comparing the little speck to grow this size,
And she
right?
gonna put the popcorn right
Co-
back in the bowl. But go ahead.
My bad, that's your bowl too. It's all right, I'll take it. But comparatively, right? Um, so it's stage 0, right?
Okay.
Barely noticeable, but because you're going for your routine exams
Mm-hmm.
and
which is
depending
why
on
going for your routine exam is extremely important.
mhm.
It's imperative to your livelihood.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Got
But right, to your
yeah.
point, and so, I know someone who was diagnosed with stage 0, but because she went to for her routine exams, et cetera, um, mammogram and ultrasound is how they were able to even see, and the doctor even said, "Wow, I don't even know, typically, we don't even see at this point." But it's there. So that person was diagnosed with breast cancer at stage 0. Stage 1, so the stages depends on the size of the cancer. That's where the stages comes in.
Okay.
Stage 1,
Okay.
so depending on the size of the cancer will tell you. So when it gets to stage 4, pretty much it has grown, to the point and left its, a point of origin, which was my case. It left its point of origin, and typically that's the fatal stage, depending on the cancer treatment, etc. And so when it leaves its host, its origin, for me, it was breast cancer. So it left the breast. It was still there, but it began to spread in my lymph nodes in my right arm, under my arm, and into my liver. And it was trying to really
Take over
take me
your
out of
body.
here. He was trying
Yeah.
to take over my body and take me out of here. And so to answer your question, the stages depends on the size. When they first saw it and it was stage 3, it's because it was so enormous. It was so enormous. Yeah. So that's how they knew it was stage 3 before the results came, the PET
Got
scan came
you.
back in. So so yeah, that's pretty much where we were. So, going, getting, so somebody asked me, "Well, have you ever had a mastectomy?" So the plan was for me to get a bilateral mastectomy. Bilateral is both
Both
breast
breasts. Okay.
mastectomy and then reconstructive surgery. I didn't have that. I didn't have the bilateral, well, obviously, and not the reconstructive either. Um, I remember during the process, my husband would he would go to work, both his jobs, and then he would come home. His father had left him a huge bottle of holy oil about this big.
Mm.
And by the time he through the years finished praying for me, he had used up that holy oil. He would go to work, both his jobs, come home, come to my side of the bed, get down on his knees. Some mornings I would wake up and he would still be in the prayer posture on his knees, but with his hands here and my shirt all greasy and everything because he cause he was annoying me. And I remember one time he said, um, I don't want I want, Lord, I remember him praying, "Lord, keep my wife the way that I married her."
Mm.
So his whole thing, and I was just like, well, the doctor said that they're gonna, take them, they're gonna reconstruct and give me, new breasts and things like that. And he was like, "No, my prayer is that God is going to keep you whole the way that I married you." And so in my mind, I remember even like in my spirit, let me tell you, I'm gonna be honest. In my spirit, I was just like, "No, I'm ready for these to go so I can get me some new ones." I'm just being honest.
Okay, that's not funny.
Cause then I can choose my size. But wait. Another funny.
What?
Listen, we gotta laugh to keep from crying, okay?
No, facts, because this is
It's
heavy, and I can
heavy, it's
imagine,
heavy.
you
But
know.
but be me being my authentic self, I gotta this is my story. This is not anybody else's story. I'm not making light of anybody else's circumstance. This is my story. And I'm gonna tell it the way I'm gonna tell it.
As you
And
should.
period. Okay.
Okay.
And I remember calling one of my good girlfriends, and I'm the godmother to both her daughters. And I remember calling her to tell her I was driving up 7 Gate from work,
Okay.
coming home. And I said, "Sis, there's something I gotta tell you." And she's just like, busy. And I said, "Sis, I need you to listen to me." Because some people you talk to, but they listen but don't listen.
Mhm.
I said,
Mhm.
"No, no, no, sis, I need you. I don't know where you are, what you're doing, but I need you to get into a quiet place, and there's something I have to tell you." And so she knew it was serious. She was like, "Okay, what's going on, sis?" And I said, I don't know how else to tell you, but to tell you, um, I was diagnosed with breast cancer." And I heard her pause and I heard her start crying. And she was like, "No, no, 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 no." She was like, but, and she was so serious. She said, but sis, you don't even have any breasts to be diagnosed with breast cancer. I said, girl, and you a biology teacher. Hold up, wait a minute. I'm gonna need you to go back to get your degree all over again. The fact of the matter that you said I don't have big enough breasts to be diagnosed with breast cancer. I said, girl. And in that moment, I had to make her laugh because first she was very serious about
Wait, because I'm burning stomach calories over
she was so serious. I said, girl, you know better. Oh my God. It was such a funny moment. And I burst into laughter. And she's like, why are you laughing? This is not funny. I said, it is funny because the fact that you think that I don't have big enough breasts to have breast cancer. Girl, I'm going to need you to go back and work on that degree again. You skipped some chapters or something. Something had happened. I don't know. You missed a whole semester or something. How you get that degree? I'm side-eyeing you. Hilarious, hilarious, hilarious. So, that was another funny moment. But, you know, all in all, I'm grateful for the journey, and I haven't even really told the full journey of it all. But I ended up, they ended up telling me the things I need to eat, and that's why I love, I did a pink table talk, and I'm getting ready to bring in this organization, this foundation here. I did a pink table talk for the Regina Strong Foundation last May. And the moderator, who happens to be my sis and my boss, my principal, she shared with me, she asked me several questions on this panel. And one of the things I shared in my speech or my talk was it is important where you go for your care,
Yeah.
right? We don't have to stop at the first opinion. We we don't listen, if something does not sound right, it does not resonate with your
Mhm.
spirit,
Mhm.
it's all right to get a second opinion.
Yep.
That's why there are multiple doctors out there.